Hey guys, how's it going? Today's video is going to be my February wrap-up. February was another amazing reading month. I read 7 books and really enjoyed most of them. I think all of them, actually. It was just a great reading month, so without further ado, let me just get into all the books that I read. The first book I read this month was Marilia the Bastard by Morgan Cole. This book, first of all, that cover, that title, I was so intrigued right away. I received an ARC of this from Book Sirens and really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10. It's essentially the story of a young girl named Marilia, who is the daughter of a painted lady, which is essentially a prostitute. She grew up in the brothel, etc. And in this world, the daughters of the painted ladies, once they become of age, become painted ladies themselves. And Marilia never wanted that. She always wanted more. And I really liked, first of all, the way that this was explained. It was never putting down sex workers. It was never something like, well, I would never resort to something like that. It was never in any way putting that down. It was just that she happened to have a really political military mind and she wanted to do that instead. And I just thought that that was really interesting. Hi, Comet. Also, the book is kind of queer. Marilia, I'm pretty sure, is attracted to only women. There's definitely a couple female characters throughout the story that she is attracted to, and she says a couple times that she's never been attracted to a man before. Her sexuality isn't explicitly said on the page yet, but this is the starting of a new series, so I'm sure that's something that's going to be explored later on. I was also really hooked into this story, right away. Within the first couple chapters, I was just super captivated with the world and basically what was being set up, because there was a couple things that were mentioned that you can just tell are going to be setting up for something, but you don't know what that something is yet. And that's my favorite thing. I like really obvious clues, but we haven't even learned what the mystery was yet, if that makes sense. The one thing that I wasn't super fond of in this was I didn't like the ending. For the first book in a series, you kind of have to balance being satisfying as a first book, but also setting up for the next books, and I don't think that it did that properly. I just don't think it got that balance right. But I'm still going to read the second book whenever it comes out, and I'm still looking forward to finishing the story. Also, if you can hear Ripley playing really loudly in the background, it's because Ripley's playing really loudly in the background. There were some things that it was trying to wrap up and some things that it was trying to leave open-ended, and it just didn't get that balance right. The other thing that I wasn't as fond of, but it's more of a personal preference thing, there was a lot of really big battle scenes, but the battle scenes were written in a very technical way, very strategic and a little bit on the slow and overly detailed side, which if you like that kind of battle scene, they were really well done and I definitely could appreciate them. But I like having a little bit more balance, a little bit more fast pacing and then slow pacing, and then I don't know, it's just not specifically the type of battle scene that I enjoy. But like I said, 8 out of 10, I really enjoyed it and I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out for the next book. The next book I read was actually a comic book, and that is Always by S. Yumi Yamamoto with illustrations by Danny Way. For something so short, it's 32 or 34 pages. I was so captivated by it. Also, Yumi is a friend of mine, but maybe I'm a little biased, but honestly, this was just so captivating. I kind of butchered the synopsis the first time that I went through it, so I'm just going to read what's written on the back. On a cold, rainy evening, a woman comes home to an unexpected guest on her doorstep. Her old lover needs a place to stay for the night. As they slip into a familiar routine, he asks a question that shatters the illusion of warmth and comfort. This story had so much going on, and I really liked that there were so many little things that were mentioned but never expanded on, because it's just a brief glimpse into one night. And I think it was really interesting because you're not going to get a full backstory by just looking in at one moment, but there was just so much to it and so much to read between the lines and so much to speculate on, and I just found that so fascinating. I obviously read it all in one sitting. Like I said, it's only 32 or 34 pages, but I immediately wanted to reread it, and I want to keep rereading it and trying to see more little things and more little pieces of these two characters' lives. And thank you, Comet. Also, the illustrations are so nice. I really like this art style. I ended up giving this a 9.5 out of 10. I would highly recommend it, and it was just definitely something that I know I'm going to keep rereading and thinking about, and I think it's really impressive that something so short has taken up such a big part of my brain, if that makes sense. So all in all, 9.5 out of 10, highly recommended. The next book I read was The Other People by C.J. Tudor. This was also the first pick for BooksandLala's new book club, the Literally Dead book club, and she's going to be doing a live show on it, I think soon. I think it's early March. Anyways, I thought this was really good timing to read the book, and I did really enjoy it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's the story of a man whose daughter, he is positive, was kidnapped. He said that he saw her in a car driving away. Meanwhile, the police, the detectives, everybody said that no, she was murdered, she was found at the crime scene. And there's also some other perspectives of other people that you know are tied into the story somehow, but you don't know how yet. And that's one thing that I realized I really like. I like having all these other characters that you know play an important role, but you don't know how or why or when, and I really do like that. The one thing that I've learned after reading this book, and that's why it's only a 9 out of 10, I don't like going into a mystery not knowing ahead of time if there's paranormal elements. With CJ Tudor's previous book, The Chalk Man, I felt the same way because there was a couple scenes where there was like ghosts and hallucinations by the main character, and I didn't know whether it was actually something paranormal and there really were ghosts giving him hints, or if he was just dealing with the trauma. This did this as well, although not at all in the same way, but there's just a lot of other elements to it, and there is a bit of a paranormal aspect, and I just learned that that's not something that I enjoy if I don't know ahead of time, because I want to try to solve the mystery. That's what I love in mystery books. I like trying to piece together the clues and trying to figure it out, and I want to know the rules that we're playing by. So if I know ahead of time that there's a paranormal element, I can kind of guess that, but if I'm trying to find a logical explanation for something, and then I find out there isn't necessarily a logical explanation, it's paranormal, I don't know, it's just not as fun to me. So I do definitely think that this is a really great book. I think that everything came together really well. I think the mystery was really fun to guess. I put a couple of my guesses early on as we were revealed certain big clues, like trying to figure out who each character was and how they connected and what was going on and all of that stuff. I found that really fun, but all in all, I found the mystery really captivating. I had a really hard time putting it down, and I really liked the way that everything came together, and there were so many little loose ends that I didn't expect to get wrapped up, but that did, which again is similar to The Chalk Man. It was something that I really liked because there are so many different things going on and so many different people you see, but almost everything gets explained in the end, and I just found that really interesting. So all in all, I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it. Next, I read A Conjuring of Light. This is the third book in the Shades of Magic series by V.E. Schwab. I'm not going to go into the specific synopsis of this book because it is the third and final book in the series, but the series overall is about magic and parallel worlds and a type of magician that can travel in between the worlds, and it's just really interesting and a fun cast of characters, and I really enjoyed it. This one I gave a 9 out of 10. It actually took me all month to read this book. I started reading it at the end of January, and I only finished it maybe a week ago. And that's not because I didn't enjoy it, I just wasn't ready for the story to end. So even though I really enjoyed the book, I was definitely dragging my feet a little bit. I thought that this was a really good ending to the series. I thought that a lot of the characters got endings that I enjoyed. There was a lot of things that I didn't expect and didn't see coming. I did find it almost wrapped up a little bit too easily. I don't know, I had the same complaint about especially the first book and a little bit in the second book, but I just found that the final resolution, it almost wasn't complicated enough. Like, there almost wasn't enough layers to the climax, and I don't really know how to explain it, and obviously it's the climax, and this is the third book, so I'm not going to go into any details, but I don't know, I just was expecting a little bit more. But as far as the conclusion goes, I really liked it. I really liked the way that the characters grew and expanded in this. I really liked, there's a lot of scenes where I didn't know what was going to happen because it's the third book to a series. Like, all bets are off, anything can happen, and I always really like that. That's, I think, why I like conclusions so much, because obviously the first page of the first book, you know the main character's not going to die. Well, I mean, they can. But you know what I mean? You kind of know certain things have to happen first, but for the ending of a series, who knows what's going to happen? And I really liked that. I thought this was done really well. I had a hard time guessing what was going to happen. And also, there was just so many character relationships that I loved. And I'm not going to get into any of them because spoilers, but I really just liked the way that all the characters interacted and just everybody's relationship with each other. And it was a really good time. I really enjoyed it. 9 out of 10. Next, I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was my romance book of the month that you may have seen in my box of prompts. I didn't think I was gonna love this as much as I did. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. A very quick summary. It's a classic about 5 sisters and their romances and etc. This book was definitely wittier than I expected, and I kind of forgot that Jane Austen does kind of have that, I don't know, a very witty writing style, and I really liked it. I didn't think I was going to like the book as much. For the first half of the book, I was sitting at maybe like a 7 out of 10, but then I don't know if something just clicked or I just suddenly got a lot more invested, but for the last half of the book, especially the very end of it, I was just so invested and didn't want to set it down, which doesn't happen a lot with me with classics. Usually I'm a little more detached from classics, and I think it's just because the time period I can't quite relate. I just ended up getting really invested in this, and I stayed up really late finishing it, and I ended up downloading is it the BBC miniseries? Whichever one it is. I finished this, and I just realized that I needed more Pride and Prejudice, so I downloaded that. I haven't watched it yet because it has just been a very crazy, busy week, and anyways, yeah, I ended up really enjoying this, and it was just a very nice surprise because I was not expecting to like this. I expected this to be a little bit like pulling teeth, but I was pleasantly surprised, and 8.5 out of 10. Next, I read The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I gave this a 9 out of 10, and I'm not going to explain the synopsis because, first of all, I don't know if I can. Second of all, I don't want to. I found this, again, with The Night Circus. I don't want to go into books like this knowing much, and I think that's how it should be read. If you're curious about the synopsis, you're more than welcome to look it up, but yeah, it's just a magical book about stories and keys and libraries. And that's all you're getting from me. This book was definitely an experience, and again, just like with The Night Circus, the atmosphere was just so rich and vivid, and I could picture everything so clearly, and it's, again, one of those books that after you finish reading it, you question reality, or at least I do, but I don't have the firmest grip on reality. But anyways, I really found with this book, I was just so absorbed in it, and it really makes you believe in magic. Maybe this is all real, maybe there is these secret magical worlds, and maybe there is just like out of the corner of your eye or just under the surface magic, and I really love books that make me feel like that. I did find the ending a little bit too quick. I just wanted just one more chapter. But I think that's kind of the beauty of it, because I think that's the big thing, is that there's always more to a story. A story is just a snapshot of the events, but things happen after that, things happen before that, and there's so much more going on that, I don't know, I just think that the book really was written in the way that its message was said. That sentence was a mess. I'm sorry. For anybody wondering, I did like The Night Circus more than I liked this book, but that's not because this book wasn't good, it's just because The Night Circus is friggin' amazing. So if you liked The Night Circus, if you liked that style, if you liked books like Strange the Dreamer, I would highly recommend this. It has the same kind of vibes, and it was just such an experience, such a fun ride, and it was really fun. And the final book that I read in the month of February was The Toll by Neil Shusterman. This is the third and final book in the Arc of a Scythe trilogy. I was worried about this one because between book 1 and book 2 there was such a different tone, and in this one it started off feeling so different, and I just wasn't sure if I was going to love it as much as I loved the first 2 books, but I ended up giving it a 9 out of 10. I was so invested and so happy with it, and I loved the way that all the things that we know about the world really came together. Yes, baby. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for kisses. I really liked all the different elements that came together in this book. The one thing that I didn't like is that for the first, say maybe third of the book, the timeline is so confusing. You're following a couple different perspectives and a couple different things going on, and it just got so confusing that because they're in completely different times. Obviously, I can't give any details because huge spoilers for the previous books, but essentially there's 3 main point of views, and one of them is pretty much immediately after the end of the second book, one of them is 3 years later, and one of them is 6 weeks later. And you don't find out that they're in different times for a while, and I think that you're supposed to figure it out because the way that they were saying it makes it seem like you were supposed to know, but it was just so confusing, and it was really hard to follow, and it made it really hard for me to get invested in the book, and I actually had to set it down and Google, like, try to find a spoiler-free answer of it, which I was really nervous about because I was really worried for spoilers, and luckily someone was able to answer my question without giving anything away, and I was very thankful. That was my biggest complaint. Aside from that, the book was super well written. I really liked the way that everything tied up. But overall, this was a really good finale to the series, and everything ended really nicely, and I loved the solutions to the problems, and I loved the way that everything came together, and it was just great, very satisfying ending to the series in my opinion. Alright, and that is the end of the video. Those were the 7 books that I read this month. Comet is very impatient for cuddles. I'm sorry. Come on, can you maybe just lay down just for a second? I'm almost done. I just have to do an outro. So that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button to let me know, and subscribe to stay up to date with the rest of my videos. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, usually reading or writing related. So I hope to see you guys next time, and until then, have a great day. Bye!